What I am about to tell you contradicts what your doctor told you at your last appointment, and the research backs me up completely. Did you know that right now, at this very moment, over 26 million Americans over the age of 70 are taking at least one medication that the American Geriatric Society has explicitly flagged as potentially inappropriate for their age group? That is not a fringe estimate. That number comes from prescription utilization data published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society in 2022. 26 million. And the majority of them were never told. They were never warned. They were never offered a reassessment. They swallow that pill every morning because a doctor they trusted prescribed it 5, 10, sometimes 15 years ago, when their body was an entirely different machine, because that is the part nobody explains clearly enough. Your body at 74 does not process a single drug the same way it did at 58. Your kidneys filter at roughly half the rate they managed 2 decades ago. Your liver metabolizes compounds so slowly that a drug meant to work for 8 hours can linger in your system for 30. Your brain has become exquisitely sensitive to sedatives that barely affected you at 50. A dose that was safe then is not safe now, and nobody went back to check. You have been feeling the consequences. That dizziness when you stand up too fast. That fog that rolls in every afternoon and makes you feel like your thoughts are trapped in wet sand. That night you stumbled in the hallway at 2 in the morning and caught the wall just in time. You told your doctor about every one of those symptoms, and every single time you heard the same answer. That is just part of aging. It is not aging, it is pharmacology. What if I told you that 5 specific medications, 3 of which require no prescription at all, are responsible for more emergency hospitalizations in seniors over 70 than almost any disease? By the end of this video, you will know exactly which 5 drugs I am talking about, the precise biological mechanism that makes each one dangerous after 70, and the exact conversation to have with your doctor at your very next appointment to protect yourself. I am Dr. Catherine, and after 23 years in clinical practice, I would never let my own mother continue taking any of these 5 drugs without a serious reassessment. Drop a comment right now with just your age, nothing else. I want to see who needs to hear this today. Before I reveal the list, I need to tell you about someone who changed the way I practice medicine. Her name was Doris, 78 years old. A retired postal worker who had walked the same 6-mile mail route every day for 31 years, in rain, heat, and snow, without missing a shift. Doris was the toughest person I have ever treated. When her daughter brought her to my office, Doris could not walk to the exam room without holding both walls of the hallway. She had fallen 4 times in 3 months. She had been to 2 emergency rooms. She had been evaluated by a neurologist who found nothing structurally wrong with her brain. She was taking 7 daily medications, 4 prescribed, 3 over the counter. She had been on every single one for at least 5 years. Nobody had reviewed them since they were first written. She was utterly defeated. She gripped her daughter's arm and said, "Dr. Catherine, they keep telling me nothing is wrong, but I cannot walk through my own house without falling. Something is wrong. I can feel it." Something was wrong. 3 of her 7 medications were on the Beers criteria, the medically reviewed list of drugs considered potentially inappropriate for older adults, and together they were dismantling her from the inside. Here is the list. I am ranking these from number 5 to number 1. The last one, number 1, is the medication I would address first in any patient over 70, and it is probably in your medicine cabinet right now. Number 5. Proton pump inhibitors, omeprazole, lansoprazole, pantoprazole. If you take anything daily for acid reflux, you are almost certainly on one. These drugs were designed for short-term use, 4 to 8 weeks. A study in the journal Gut in 2020 found that 63% of seniors on PPIs had been taking them for more than 2 years without a single reassessment. The problem is not what they do to your stomach. The problem is what they do to everything else. PPIs suppress stomach acid by up to 95%. Your stomach acid is the key that unlocks vitamin B12 and magnesium from the food you eat. Suppress that acid for years, and both nutrients plummet. Think of stomach acid like a locksmith. Every mineral and vitamin in your food arrives in a locked box. The locksmith opens each one and hands you the contents. PPIs fire the locksmith. The boxes pass through unopened. A landmark study published in JAMA in 2019 found that long-term PPI use was associated with a 65% higher risk of B12 deficiency. In seniors, severe B12 deficiency causes peripheral neuropathy, tingling and numbness in your hands and feet, and cognitive decline that gets misdiagnosed as early dementia. Now, this next one surprises almost everyone. Number 4. Ibuprofen and naproxen, sold as Advil, Motrin, and Aleve. These are the first drugs most seniors reach for when their knees flare or their back locks up. For occasional use in younger adults, they are manageable. For regular use after 70, the risk profile shifts dramatically. Your kidneys are responsible for clearing these drugs from your blood. After 70, kidney function has typically declined by 40 to 50%. When ibuprofen enters a body with already reduced filtration, it lingers far longer and hits far harder. Think of your kidneys like a drain in a sink. At 30, the drain is wide open. Water flows through fast. At 70, that drain has narrowed to the width of a drinking straw. Pour the same volume of water and it backs up, floods the counter, damages everything around it. That is ibuprofen in your 70-year-old kidneys. A 2023 update to the Beers criteria specifically reinforced the need for renal function-based dose adjustments for NSAIDs, recognizing how frequently this class causes acute kidney injury in older adults. And the gastrointestinal risk compounds it. According to the NIH, older adults who use NSAIDs regularly are 3 to 5 times more likely to develop a serious gastrointestinal bleed, and those bleeds are far more dangerous in someone over 70 because the body's ability to recover from blood loss has diminished. Be completely honest right now. Do you take ibuprofen or naproxen for pain more than twice a week? Write yes or no in the comments. Because if you do, what I am about to say next about safer alternatives could change your daily life. But wait, it gets darker. Number 3. Zolpidem, sold as Ambien, prescribed to roughly 10 million Americans annually for sleep. The FDA issued a specific safety communication about this drug in older adults, noting that elderly patients can have far higher blood concentrations of Zolpidem the morning after taking it compared to younger users on the same dose. You wake up feeling like yourself. You do not feel drugged. But your coordination and reaction time are compromised without your knowledge. Think of it like driving a car with a fogged windshield that you cannot see is fogged. From the inside, your view looks normal. From the outside, you are heading for a collision. Research consistently finds that Zolpidem use is associated with nearly twice the risk of hip fracture in older adults, and hip fractures in adults over 70 carry a 1-year mortality rate of 20 to 30%. That means up to 3 in 10 seniors who break a hip may not survive the following year, not from the fracture itself, but from complications like blood clots and pneumonia during recovery. Zolpidem does not improve deep sleep. It suppresses the restorative stages while increasing lighter stages. You fall asleep faster, but wake up less restored, which drives continued use, higher doses, and dependency. It solves nothing. It reshapes the problem into something quieter and more dangerous. Drop your country in the comments. I read every single one. This medication crisis crosses every border, and I want to see how far this community spans. Pay very close attention here. This is where most people go wrong. Number 2. Benzodiazepines. Diazepam, lorazepam, alprazolam. You know them as Valium, Ativan, Xanax. Prescribed primarily for anxiety and insomnia. They work in the short term, and that effectiveness is exactly why they are so consistently problematic for older adults. After 70, your liver clears benzodiazepines at a fraction of the speed it managed at 40. A single dose of diazepam that lasts 12 hours in a younger adult can remain pharmacologically active in your bloodstream for up to 100 hours. Think of it like a guest who checks into a hotel for one night and refuses to leave for 4 days. The drug is still sedating your brain, still impairing your reflexes, still disrupting your balance long after you believe it has worn off. The American Geriatric Society explicitly lists the entire benzodiazepine class as drugs to avoid in older adults. Multiple systematic reviews confirm that benzodiazepine use is associated with a 51% higher risk of injurious falls. Falls serious enough to require hospitalization. Falls are the leading cause of fatal injury in adults over 65 in the United States. This is not a minor side effect. This is a life-threatening risk hiding inside a prescription your doctor wrote years ago and never revisited. This one is different from everything else on this list. Number 1. The medication I would address first, The one that horrifies me because it requires no prescription, costs $6, and sits in 90% of senior households right now. Diphenhydramine. You know it as Benadryl. You also know it as the active ingredient in Tylenol PM, Advil PM, and Zizquil. Millions of seniors take it nightly for sleep, confident that if it is sold without a prescription, it must be safe. It is not safe. Not after 70. Diphenhydramine is one of the most potent anticholinergic drugs available over the counter. Anticholinergic means it blocks acetylcholine, the primary neurotransmitter your brain uses for memory formation, learning, and cognitive processing. Think of acetylcholine like the electricity running through every wire in your house. It powers the lights, the appliances, the alarm system, everything. Diphenhydramine cuts the power at the main breaker. The house goes dark. And if you cut the power every night for months or years, the wiring starts to degrade permanently. A landmark study published in JAMA Internal Medicine in 2015 followed 3,434 adults over 65 for more than 7 years. Those with the highest cumulative anticholinergic use had a 54% increased risk of developing dementia. 54%. From an over-the-counter sleep aid that costs less than a cup of coffee. The pharmaceutical industry keeps it on shelves because it generates revenue. Most doctors have not connected their patient's cognitive decline to the Benadryl their patient buys without telling them. Doris, the retired postal worker, was taking diphenhydramine every night for sleep, ibuprofen 3 times daily for knee pain, and omeprazole every morning for reflux. 3 of the 5 drugs on this list. Together, they were sedating her brain, destroying her balance, eroding her kidneys, and draining her B12. Her falls were not aging, they were pharmacology. Drop the word informed in the comments if you now understand why I made this video. It tells me this information is reaching the people who need it, and it helps YouTube share this with more seniors who deserve to see it. Here is where hope enters this story. Here is exactly what to do. Write down every medication you take, prescription and over-the-counter. Include the Benadryl, include the Advil, include the Prilosec. Bring that list to your next doctor's appointment and say these exact words. I would like a geriatric medication review based on the American Geriatric Society Beers criteria. Those words will be immediately recognized. For pain, ask about acetaminophen as a first-line alternative, significantly safer for kidneys and the GI tract at no more than 3,000 milligrams per day for adults over 65. For sleep, ask for a referral to cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, CBTI. A study in the Annals of Internal Medicine in 2020 found it outperforms every sleep medication for long-term outcomes in seniors, with 0 drug interactions, 0 dependency, and no morning impairment. For reflux, ask whether you still need your PPI and whether your B12 has been tested recently. Let me tell you what happened to Doris. I tapered her off diphenhydramine over 3 weeks and replaced it with 0.5 milligrams of melatonin and a structured sleep hygiene protocol. I transitioned her from ibuprofen to scheduled acetaminophen at 1,000 milligrams 3 times daily with topical diclofenac gel applied directly to her knees. I tapered her omeprazole over 8 weeks, replaced it with famotidine 20 milligrams at bedtime, elevated the head of her bed by 6 inches, and eliminated food within 3 hours of lying down. At her 6-week follow-up, Doris had not fallen once. At 12 weeks, her B12, which had been critically low at 162, had risen to 418. Her daughter told me the fog was lifting. And at her 4-month visit, Doris walked into my office unassisted, sat down without holding the armrests, and said, "I walked to the mailbox and back yesterday. 6 houses down, 6 houses back. First time in a year. I know that does not sound like much. But for me, Dr. Catherine, that was my old route. Just a tiny piece of it. And my legs held." She paused. My legs held. That is not a lab value. That is a woman who was being buried alive by 3 medications that nobody bothered to question. Do not stop any medication without speaking to your doctor first. Benzodiazepine withdrawal without medical supervision can cause life-threatening seizures. Any change requires careful, coordinated medical oversight. But the conversation, the review, that is yours to start, and it could change everything. Think of one person right now. Your mother, your husband, your neighbor who keeps falling and blaming it on the carpet. Send them this video right now, not next week, right now. That single share could prevent the fall that changes someone's life forever. If you have not subscribed yet, hit that button now. My mission is bringing you research-backed health information that most doctors do not have 15 minutes to explain. That is what every video on this channel is built to do. In my next video, I am covering the 4 supplement combinations that are quietly dangerous for seniors, including combinations being sold together in the same bottle as if they are perfectly safe. You will not want to miss that. If you have made it this far, type "I finished" in the comments below. It tells me this information is reaching people who need it, and it helps YouTube show this to more seniors who deserve access to it. I am Dr. Catherine, and your health is the only metric that matters. I will see you in the next consultation. Remove these words,